top stories of the day. I want to bring in my panel, lawyer and commentator Carolyn de Russo. Welcome, Carolyn, and of course, Liberal Senator Holly Hughes. Ladies, thanks for joining me. I'll start with you, Holly. These people, they say they're being used as sacrificial lambs. It's a disgrace, isn't it?
Look, and to listen to the stories that these people are telling, that their family were out sandbagging other parts of the community, to then see that they've been excluded from being protected by the levy, is just heartbreaking for these people. And floods are horrifically messy things when they go through. The devastation is extraordinary. And they're completely non-discriminatory. They're not like bushfires that can pick and choose or sort of move around and only some houses will be affected, or they move in different directions, so houses are inexplicably unharmed. Floods are completely indiscriminate. Once it gets onto a plane, that's it. Everyone is in trouble. So it must be just heartbreaking for these people to know, and that's actually a really hard part about floods. It can be a good thing. I lived in Moree, we're a flood zone, and we knew they were coming. So everyone would get prepared, and you do what you could, and you knew they were coming. But if you know it's coming and know that you're not going to be protected, it would just be absolutely dreadful for these families.
Carolyn, you're a lawyer. Any advice? Any? Can they take this matter further legally? I mean, where are they at?
Well, it's very difficult, obviously, to seek any legal recourse because, as we know, our justice system rarely works quickly. I guess the thing that we don't understand here is we don't know exactly why the levy bank has gone in the way it has. Like, I don't know what the topography of the area is like, and in some sense, I grew up in a small country town, a rural district. There is always going to be someone who misses out. It's very, very difficult to be able to, I suppose, cordon off all the properties so that no one is affected. What we don't know is the steps that went through, that council made that decision, how they made that decision, why they chose to put the levy bank there, and we don't know if there's a duty of care issue there. I mean, this one here is fraught. Peter, this one's fraught.
And this one's fraught too. This is bizarre, actually. Now, the Bureau of Meteorology, we all call it the BOM. It's the BOM. It's just the way it is. Now, they've spent 70 grand on a rebrand, and they've asked people to stop calling it the BOM or the Weather Bureau and stick to the Bureau of Meteorology, or the Bureau for short. Now, this has all attracted a fair bit of backlash online, as you'd expect, especially given the current situation in Victoria. But the Bureau insists, and we're going to take a statement from them, this is what they say: the refresh in our visual identity has not in any way diverted resources that are dedicated to understanding and communicating the weather, nor has it impacted in any way on the timely and accurate delivery of our forecasts and warnings. Now, Carolyn, I mean, the timing's one thing, but, you know, it's the BOM, isn't it?
It is the BOM, and they're not going to stop people calling it that, regardless of how they rebrand themselves. And I think the bigger issue here, or the other big issue here, is not only the timing of it, but the use of resources. You know, we keep being told that we all have to tighten our belts. This is at a government level as well. Everyday Australians, you know, they're dealing with inflation and high fuel and food prices, and their mortgages going up. And here is the Bureau of Meteorology, the BOM, who doesn't like its nickname, and so they've thrown their toys out of the cot and want a $70,000 rebrand. What a joke.
Holly, we've got Tanya Plibersek, the Environment Minister, saying that the rebrand began under the previous government. It's the old, you know, that old chestnut. Can you shed any light on this?
No, I can't. And in light of the recent NAPLAN examination results, where we've seen people's spelling has gone backwards considerably, Bureau is one of those words that people tend to get the EAU at the end of it wrong, and they want to rebrand the Bureau on Twitter. I mean, I did find it hilarious that whoever's put this together announced what their Twitter handles were going to be, but hadn't lodged them, so other people were able to grab them first. Yeah, I don't think this has been terribly well thought through. Tanya Plibersek can refer to whoever she likes in the previous government, but they've been there for a little while now, and this Twitter thing happened this week.
They inherited it.
It's been ongoing under her watch. But, you know, I think trying to get people to type the Bureau in is probably going to cause more people not to be able to find it, as opposed to BOM, which everyone can pretty much spell.
We need to check over the course of the next 3 years how many times the Albanese government says inherit, because it seems to be their favourite word right now. Okay, let's turn to the fallout from the Albanese government's latest diplomatic bungle. That's what it is, it's a bungle. The overturning of the Morrison government policy recognising West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The move has attracted a lot of backlash, both here at home and overseas, and even from within the Labor Party itself. Certainly Israeli officials and the Jewish community say they were blindsided by this decision. Holly, what did you make of Penny Wong's comments that the original decision was a ploy by the Morrison government to curry votes with the Jewish population?
Look, that's just insulting to everyone on absolutely every level. And the fact that this has been done because DFAT changed a couple of words on its website, it was then denied this is what they were doing. Penny Wong then just confirmed what they were doing. Israel is a sovereign state. They decide where their capital is. The Knesset is in West Jerusalem. The President lives in West Jerusalem. The Supreme Court is in West Jerusalem. If Anthony Albanese, on one of his many, many overseas jaunts, decides that he needs to meet with any officials in Israel, if he heads to Tel Aviv, he may go for a lovely swim in the Mediterranean, but he won't be meeting with many leaders because they are all based in West Jerusalem. It is like someone in Israel, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, saying, Canberra? No, I'm sorry, Sydney is the capital of Australia. And some sovereign nation independently overseas saying, we will now declare Sydney. We are recognising Sydney as the capital of Australia. And I mean, it's insulting, it's ridiculous, it's offensive to Israelis, but also to Jews here in Australia.
Sure.
The fact that it was done on a very holy day within the Jewish calendar. It is just but you know what? This is completely in line with them. This is completely where they are. They're bringing back ISIS brides under the cover of darkness without any press conferences, without any explanation. They've now just admitted into the New South Wales Labor Party a left-wing extremist who has expressed significantly anti-Semitic views. We know just a couple of weeks ago there was a Palestinian gay man who had taken asylum in Israel, who was kidnapped, taken back to the West Bank and beheaded. So I guess when it comes to the Labor Party, anti-Semitism trumps LGBT rights. I just think it is offensive on so many levels, and the Labor Party needs to take a very, very good look at themselves and really start to look at this decision seriously.
Carolyn, I've got to say, it's pretty embarrassing for Australia on the world stage. I mean, how damaging is it for our foreign policy credibility?
Well, it is embarrassing on the world stage, particularly when pretty much the only people who are approving of our new foreign policy is Hamas. You know, I never thought that we'd see the day where Australian values aligned with Hamas, so that there is just an international embarrassment on its own. I'm sure that the actual action itself is taken for domestic purposes. I discussed this last night. You know, when we look at the lead into the budget, it's been as benign as possible, I suppose, from the point of view of spending. It's been a bit more centrist. It's been less of a big Labor spending budget. And I guess, you know, something like this is a way of placating the very left of the Labor Party.
Yep.
Give them a nice ideological shot in the arm if they're not going to get the spending. So that's all I see it as. But unfortunately, it has international ramifications.
All right, a quickie to finish, guys. A transgender lobby group called ACON says we should ban the phrases maternity and paternity leave and words like mother and dad in the workplace, instead using terms like primary and secondary caregiver. This is coming from an organisation that advises the Prime Minister's office, schools, universities, the police, and of course the ABC. Carolyn, your thoughts?
I can't stand this stuff. And the worst part about this stuff is it is so disconnected from everyday Australians. You know, no one is giving their mother or their father a primary caregiver card or a secondary, you know, caregiver breakfast in bed. You know, it is just totally detached from, you know, the beautiful thing that is the family. But it's incredibly cynical. It's incredibly cynical. It's postured as being inclusive, but it is sterile and it's soulless.
Holly, we're running out of time. Just quickly.
Well, I'm a mother of three, and the last little break when Caro was speaking, I was texting my 13-year-old who's clearly not watching Sky, who's now called me about 7 times since I've been sitting in the studio and on air. So I'm pretty sure he's not calling his primary caregiver or his caregiver or anyone else, but he's trying to call his mum. So
Sure.
this stuff drives me insane. I think it drives people insane, and I think it undermines what people say they're trying to achieve through this of an acceptance of diversity. And I think
Sure.
if anyone said, I want to be referred to as this, people will accept that and go along with that. But to put it carte blanche on everyone else, and it just continues this erasure of women and erasure of mothers, and I think it's appalling. And I mean, as Caro says, everyone's just getting fed up to the back teeth.
Well said, Carolyn de Russo, Holly Hughes. Thank you for joining us tonight.